What's in the Box? Presented by Sure It'll Be Grand.
And welcome back, everybody, to Sure to Be Grand. To be more specific, What's on the Box with David and myself, Daniel. And we are reviewing the finale of Andor. It's very sad.
It's over.
It's over for now. But we are getting into season 2. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and get into this one. It has been a pleasure watching this show. I think. This feels like every kid who watched A New Hope has now grown up and said, okay, now here's the adult, part of Star Wars that you can enjoy. And not to say that, look, Star Wars is usually a family franchise, so anyone should be able to enjoy it at any age kind of thing. But Andor is definitely for older people. I wouldn't sit down my nieces to watch Andor,
Right. Yeah. It's definitely not. It's definitely much more adult. Yeah. I like, that was one thing I've liked about this show so far. It's pushed it's a proper, I would say, how to do mature audience without the need for complete gore, complete ridiculous violence. There's violence, but not, you don't need to do over the top violence. You don't have to make it, with the,
killing,
everybody
killing in cold, but like Andor, for example, he kills in cold blood a few times. He kills and he moves on. And killing in cold blood is far more intimidating to me than yet another Skywalker getting their hand chopped off. And so no, I think it's intimidating without going for the gore. Not to say I'm against gore either. It's fine, but I think it's a cheap way to kind of enhance film, especially because it doesn't really work like that in real life,
Exactly. Well, here, as we saw throughout the series, one of their big things, right? It's all about the more psychological. Right. Yeah. It's the psychological implications that occur, and which is much more real. And I love that it takes careful writing, careful figuring out what really does mess with people and what is a darker way of going. So that's why I really like it. I think that is a more mature way of handling things.
Absolutely. But yeah, let's look at some psychology, because I think one thing the show has done well, especially, is music. Themes and music gets, and it's not a thing we've mentioned much in this podcast. I think we only really mentioned it last week. Oh, by the way, the finale is episode 12. I finally got it right. Woo! But yeah, so the intro, we haven't talked about this much. I think we mentioned it last week. They are kind of like instruments being added every episode. I think in an episode here and there, they actually changed it a little bit, where they removed some instruments and added others. There were different elements. But in general, there's been an increase of instruments, like an orchestra slowly building. And, this kind of jumping ahead there, we have a marching band in this for the funeral rite for Marva, Andor's mother. And, there's a very musical theme about this. It's a collection of people coming together for a purpose. So now that we look at all the songs as they've been building, especially the intro music, it's like the rebellion is slowly coming into orchestra. People are taking their seats. And talk about taking your seats. This episode, everyone's coming together. Everyone's moving to Farrix. Because we have Andor, Luthen, we have Miro. Who else is coming? Is anyone else coming? And obviously everyone who's on Farrix.
Right.
Yeah. So Cyril. Cyril comes along as well, because his boyfriend asked him to come along. But yeah. So I think we kind of saw the building of the trap last week, but yeah, Miro's here, and she doesn't want to make it too obvious. She's just like, hey, look, we tell them that they can only do funeral at this certain time, so they get a bit of a pushback and maybe reduce the numbers a little, just so it looks organic, this is just the Empire swinging its dick around, But at this stage, it comes up a little later. The ISB is not really interested in Andor anymore. Not
Right.
really. Like they want him out the picture, but they don't want to capture him and get information anymore because Krieger, whoever you are, Krieger, has been killed off screen.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So we see some interesting the why slowly we've seen that how Deidre is much more methodical and much more, she wants information. She wants to get to this whole thing and not just knee-jerk reaction. And even I think they call that out about Empire doing some knee-jerk reactions. And she's much more, no, we've got to drown this. We got to kill the source. We've got to get down to really finding how this is all going on. Don't just get focused on this one act.
Deidre is an interesting character because look, she's an awful person, all right? Like, she's not a nice person. She's really bad. But within the Empire, when she's around all these other generals, there's a part of you that kind of roots for her. It's like, yeah, you get it, girl. Because
break the imperial glass ceiling.
Exactly. Ceiling. yeah. Because we get the impression, like, oh, you are only here because you're quite good at what you do, but you still have a way to fight up. We heard in the first few episodes. So there's still a part of you, even though she's definitely the antagonist and we don't like her. There's still like, you still like, come on, yeah. Look, she's focused on her goals. She'll still go for it. Like, there's kind of like a pathetic nature to her, like a sort of like there's an empathy to her, like you feel empathetic to her, like
well, yeah,
what is it? Is it sympathy? Is it feeling sorry for them, really?
Well, that's why I say it's empathy. Yeah, you're correct with saying empathy, right? Because
it seems too nice to call it empathy. That's why.
You're right. It does. Yeah. But it is exactly that. We understand that scenario.
Pity.
It's hilarious.
Pity. We pity her. That's it.
Right. Because it happens, right? It's kind of like, it's like you still see that within the Empire, right? Which is not like they're all good nature. They're not. They're pure evil. But just about. But it's funny to see. Not funny, but you see that happens, right? That you would think. I think because we see the Empire as being much more smart, right? We know they took it because of how Palpatine laid this out. So you would think that there would be a smarter organization of things, and listening to that. Doesn't matter who this person is. We know that the Empire holds what we call is it they're against other alien races. We know that part.
Yeah.
Right. They
human centric.
Right. So they're very human centric. We know that, and hence why, like, from books like in Thrawn and whatnot, where they're like, who the hell is this guy? They didn't really want him around, but he was useful. So they still let him in.
Yeah.
But that's why, so we know there's that, but you would think there'd be other, knowing that if somebody is actually being smart and tactical, they want to keep them around. They do want to rise up and listen to their ideas. And she's being smart and tactical, and they're like, there is that sexism going on here of, who are you? You're just a woman. And it gives, like, there's that feeling going on still, and she has to fight much more than she would have to normally.
I suppose that's the thing. It's that check and balances, because this is a fascist populist group, and they need to make sure that we do not trust the other. And usually in these fascist populist group, the main people are, white men who are a bit older, patriarchal white men. That's usually how these systems work. So when they have to introduce someone outside of that to bring into their posse, they have to, like, they themselves know, like, yes, this person is probably just as skilled, as intelligent as us in every way. It's just that we need to keep the pretense up. So are their skills worth enough for us to let the pretense down a little bit?
Right.
And that's kind of the... Yeah.
Everybody's out for themselves. There is that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But that was a bit of a jump ahead, but we'll kind of go back. We see someone making a bomb. They're looking at a hologram. It's obviously maybe someone they lost, and they want to have revenge against the Empire. If anyone knows who this person are, me and David aren't 100% sure. We think maybe they showed up before and we kind of forgot, and they were like a blink and you miss it sort of situation. But please let us know.
That part was, but it was interesting because, the moment they show show this kid as he's building something. He's like, at first, like, is that about, like, for a brief moment, first I'm like, are they being too, yes, this is a bomb, they're making it look like he's building a bomb, and then it's gonna be like, no, he's building something else. And but then, like, nope, there's, as they cut back and forth between it, pretty quickly there, as he's connected things, and you see that that powering something on, it's like, oh yeah, this is totally a bomb. We're getting that, we're going that route now.
But there's some interesting stuff about it as well, even how the bomb was made. Like, it's partially futuristic, but it's also like, it looks like a pipe bomb, and there was even some felt that was part of the fuse, I guess, that was being pushed in. So it gives that sort of Farix vibe again. Like, yes, we have, like, far space technology that we in the 21st century are nowhere close to having, but they also have, like, dirty bricks and, like, cooling units that need to be cleaned, and like, it's kind of like a real mix of different eras. I guess it would happen with different cultures from different planets being connected at different times of their technological development. So yeah, I really like that sort of mismatch world kind of thing.
As well as, I mean, I think it starts adding, even more of the common man versus anybody else, right?
Yeah.
So it makes much more, where you think I think that's going to happen, right? That's going to go on much more of what can the common man get a hold of to make things, right? That you're still going to have that. You're going to have, it's essentially going to be very crude, having to build something out of, parts and random stuff that they can get a hold of easily.
But the thing is, right, like, just because it's a futuristic world doesn't mean they need some classical, like, ingredients as well. Firefly, the TV show, mentioned this when they landed on a planet that was all about getting mud and clay. It's just a planet of clay and mud diggers and all that. And, I forgot her name now. I know people are going to hate me for it. The engineer of the ship, she explains, like, hey, look, you need plenty, like, clay and stuff for the machinery of our spaceship as well, like, and that does make sense. I mean, even, like, fuse boxes, at least now, like, there's like a lot of, like, I guess, like, a cementy clay in them as well, like, we still need to use the ingredients of the real world to make these things, right. Like, so
everything comes from something. We don't just spawn it out of the air.
You don't pull out the, like, I'll just go to the science shop where everything's made of science,
Yeah, like, exactly. It doesn't work like that. I think this helps emphasize that point. Yeah, that everything comes from something. You have to build it from something, from the real organic ingredients. It's sci-fi when it ultimately gets put together. It's made of, or the sci-fi-ness of the fact that we've seen throughout different shows and movies, right? That they mine different, they'll call them spices or things like that, different minerals
and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And so you're like, but it's still the same idea of it's still an organic thing. It's just
a matter of thing. They're not pulling out of nothing, except for the replicators, but let's not go there. Anyway, I kind of want to jump just one step ahead quickly because it fits well here. So Andor remembers a story about his dad, and I think they were cleaning out filters or cooling things, and he was saying, components. And he said, look, these things are really crazy expensive, and the Empire spent so much money buying these fresh and new, but you leave them in there for half an hour, you clean them, and they're as good as new, and it costs us nothing. And he says that people don't look down the right way. Like, and argue that's, talk about, we should recycle and be like a bit more humble. But I think it's more about the Empire in its own right. It's commercial. It wastes so much on nonsense. Like, again, the Death Star is the biggest amount of nonsense that's out there. You're literally taking all your crap into one basket that's easily destroyed. And it is. Like, even if there wasn't, a hole in the side of the Death Star, like, it's still one target that could be destroyed,
Right.
So like, and and then we make a second Death Star, and it doesn't matter because we'll just get the prisoners to build more pieces. Spoiler alert! After credit scene, we find out what Andor has been making all this time in the prison. But yeah, I think there's a bit of commercialism talk in there, but it's also about people. I suppose it's about the father saying like, people look down on us, but all we need is a little bit of a cleanup, and we're just as good as them. We're not that neat, tidy idea of it. And if you look at like the ISB, these almost surgical, and they have been described as surgeons in the show, these surgical, clean garments, white, spit and span, like it was.
Yeah, very crisp, right?
Yeah.
Whether they're with the white uniforms, very clean. Even the black uniforms, they're very crisp. They're very cut. It's like perfect. Yeah.
And the moment you go out of that, like everyone's dirty, everyone's trying to survive in the mud, living in houses made of their dead ancestors, stuff like that. And that's why I suppose later on we'll mention is when the fighting starts, like we just see one of the generals, his hair being disheveled and ashes coming across, and suddenly this very prim, proper person has been ripped right down to the common man, but we'll get there. But yeah, just to jump back then, Cinta Kaz, who I don't think we've seen since episode 3. She was a doctor who was very good at murdering too. She has come back to Vel. We were kind of talking about this. Was it obvious or not? But like, it is obvious that they're a couple. Cinta seems very like focused on what's going on. She didn't even say hello to Vel or anything, but you can see like Vel says hello, by the way, and I don't think it was done in a mean way. I think she kind of realizes that her girlfriend or spouse or whatever has just been living in the wild, basically trying to survive, trying not to get caught by the Empire. So she's like in survival mode. She's not in a, hey, honey, I'm home kind of mode.
Yeah, there's definitely none of that. Right. She's been, because we saw, we've seen flashes of her so far just real quick throughout once, because she was sent to when she and Vel split up from Ferrix, that Cinta was left here to monitor for Andor to show up, while Vel got to go back briefly to the luxury life, right? Yeah. She got to go put on that costume, but at least get out.
She looks so different outside of the costume as well. I keep thinking they're separate characters.
Oh yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, it's funny seeing that, watching the whole flip the switch, and she looks completely different, right? It does take a moment to be like, that's Vel. That's the same character. Yeah. So I think she got to, she's coming back and being like, it's the seriousness of everything, right? Everything's coming together. Vel's seen now how things have escalated since Aldhani, since this big thing has occurred. Now things are getting real. Yeah, basically, I think is kind of the sentiment, right? She's seen that. She's talked with her cousin, with Mon Mothma, and sees what's going on there, and it's like, things are not already very clear to a lot of people. Things aren't the way they were. No, and we've taken a different step now. Things have changed.
We'll go a little bit back to Andor, because I skipped a little bit of what's been happening to Andor. Andor is coming back to his home. The people of the town know, and they're like, they're almost like, we really wish he wasn't coming back. This is going to cause trouble. We're going to have to do stuff. It's not easy on them, but we know he's coming. And Nurchi, who's a character we met in the first few episodes, who was after Andor to get his money back and hired a bodyguard and all this kind of stuff. He overheard this and very quickly, like giddily almost, says, I'm going to betray him to the Empire and get some money. Woohoo! And that goes well for him as much as broken glass in the face would. But yeah. Then we have Andor, and he climbs the wall of Bix's house. And we don't know who this character is, really. I think it might be the father of Bix, or some sort of parental unit kind of person. Someone who knows her and is older than her. And he explains where Bix is. Luthen arrives. He's like standing in a stony outcrop looking at the city gloomily and, atmospherically. Then I think what arguably might be one of my, not favorite scenes, but I'd say one of the smartest scenes with Mon Mothma in the cow of her husband. Do you want to go through it?
Yeah, so I loved this moment when they flip to Mon Mothma. We see cutting to Mon Mothma. We see her waiting in the limo in the car, and she looks obviously like stressed and riled up. And we see she unbuttons her cloak or her jacket. Like oh, I can't breathe. It's that there's something really bothering her.
Yeah,
and we see her husband. We see Perrin exiting from this party and enters the car. I love it. He's like, oh, thought you left without me. Crossed my mind. She says. And so obviously, like there's this tension. It's obviously like she's pissed at him about something. Or there's something she's upset about more so than usual. More so than the usual. She doesn't want to be around him. There's something on her mind. She quickly tells Cloris, "Can you give us some privacy, please?" And so puts up the window and what have you. And we see that she quickly she turns to Perrin and tells him, "You're gambling," and Perrin's like, what are you talking about? And we start hearing a whole backstory, obviously, that, she goes, you promised you wouldn't do this again. Obviously, there's been some troubles he's gotten into from gambling.
Yeah.
And you see that while this is going on, and she even says, quiet down, and he's like, oh, the driver can't hear us. And as they're going, we flip to Cloris, and we see, yep, he's listening in. Of course he's listening in. Because as we already know, for what was talked about previously, he's a spy, right? He's there listening
and painfully obvious. Like, I mean, if it's obvious to us, I think it's obvious to Mom as well.
And she already made that comment, right? That they had swapped out drivers, and that this driver is obviously from the Empire, from the ISB. So she fully is aware that this guy, he's there listening.
I'm really surprised how many people, because I've watched a few reviews on the shows, and there's so many people who think like this is a subtle thing, that Mon Mothma is like, oh, what if she's doing this on purpose to send a false information to us? Like, no, that's exactly what she's doing. Like, that's what she's doing. She's smart. Have you watched the show? Exactly.
And that's what I loved about this scene. It was, it was very obvious that, yep, that's what she's doing. She is planting now this seed to knowing that will get to the Empire. And I love that. It was like, oh, that's a great way to now you're sending that as the option of why there's weird money things going on with her accounts. That there you go. All right. We know, there's a history of gambling that whether or not they were aware of, if she's now saying that this is going on, she thinks it's obvious. And now he's all, oh, no, I haven't. I'll prove it to you. But there's
she's
nothing.
Like, oh, I don't want to be embarrassed again tonight. That kind of. It's wonderful.
It was like, oh, that's great trap setup. Yeah. And for me, I thought, just from watching that, I was like, so that her. That's how she's going to try to get out of marrying off her daughter, right? Because she kept telling, as she told Vel in previous episode, right? She's in so much trouble, but it seemed like that she was being cornered into needing to marry off the daughter, because that's just to help cover this up, because she's all about this rebellion. The rebellion has to be going on, so she's going to do everything to protect it, even it looks like at a cost of her daughter.
Yeah.
So this seemed like it was setting up a great way to she's laying out these seeds to help not have to go down that path.
Yeah.
Which we see, later. But I love that. It's like, it shows how smart Mon Mothma is, right? And why a very obvious reason why she is a leader within the rebellion.
Yeah. Maybe she'll introduce really good divorce laws once the Empire's down. But yeah, so Brasso shows up, Andor's friend, and he tells him what his mother basically passed on to him, to say that she loves him so much that there is no mistakes he can make that will make her ever not love him. And I think that's, again, I mean, you know, we had the prison escape, right, a few episodes ago, and it was all about getting out, being free. And as harsh as it sounds, the death of his mother freed Andor as well. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to worry about his mother anymore. And then he doesn't even have to feel guilty about what he has to do, because his mother told him, I love you no matter what you have to do, what mistakes you have to make, I'll still love you. So like he can really move on now. I thought it was just a very touching scene, very well acted by the actor who played Brasso, you know, very much like a brotherly love between those two as well. I feel like they're good friends, but like they're really good friends. I remember even from like the second episode where Andor needed a cover story and they just did it on the fly, and it's just really damn good.
Yeah. I love that. I was like, that's your absolute best friend, brother, type thing. And yeah, I love that, the message that was, passed on, like exactly what you hit on, and the message of he knows everything he needs to know and everything he needs to feel and feel everything he needs to feel. She already,
she must be related to Yoda.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Rey has everything she needs. Off she goes.
I love that. Yeah, exactly. It's a good callback to that kind of knowledge, that kind of wisdom, and she knew that that's what he needed to hear. And because we see that
Cassian she lifted him up.
Because Cassian even tells Brasso, right? He goes, I told her I'd come back. I meant to come back. He goes, I was going to come back. I was going to bring her. And Brasso has a reassurance, like, we know, we this wasn't something we didn't believe. Like, we knew, and he goes, and she did too. She knew that you would probably try this, and hence here's this message. Here's the message for you that lays it all out. So
okay, but really nice, strong scene. It's interesting. Like, we have the father scene before as well. Mm-hmm. I kind of hope maybe in the next season we get more connections to his father. Like in flashbacks. I wouldn't mind if they don't, but it'd be neat too, because this very much felt like this was Andor leaving home. His mother is gone now, and like it's like both of them had a message for him, and it says, now you go, son. You do us proud, kind of thing. Talking about another brotherly love, Cyril and his buddy are on the bus. Literally look like kids on a bus, excited to go on a trip. It's like Cyril has turned into such an entertaining weirdo for me. Like, it really, I want a show about Cyril at this stage. He's such a pathetic, hilarious person, like there was moments where I even thought through the shows, maybe he'll turn to the good side and all this. Like, no, he's just, I don't even want to call him a wanker, because it implies some sort of like aptitude for something. Like, he's such a loser. He's just straight up loser. Like, but this is like internet groups that you see that one guy who thinks like he's this logical mastermind, and then you have like the dopey rough guy next to him, like, he's right. It's like Elon Musk got a dumpy friend to hang around him, I don't know, just
oh my god, I love Elon Musk. He kind of does have that look.
He kind of does, yeah. But yeah, they're on a bus. We'll get back to them. So this is probably like when the plot really starts opening up. With the sisterhood of, was it Sister of Ferrix, is it?
Daughters of Ferrix,
yeah. So they're having a funeral procession. We've had all this talk about, like, the Empire, it's laying a trap for Andor, but it also like doesn't want to be too obvious about laying a trap. So they're just like, hey, look, we'll say they have to shift their times a little bit and maybe reduce their numbers a bit to make it look like, oh yeah, they're just, doing the normal
Empire stuff.
Yeah, Empire stuff. Like this is just run of the mill stuff, so that maybe they don't realize like there's more going on.
Right, and that's we see there's that going on. We see that Vel and Luthen meet up right in the street, and she relays to him the same thing about here's what the Empire is doing, and of course Luthen making a great point about they know that the Empire is there is waiting for Andor as well. So this will give, as he tells her, gives us a great opportunity that when the Empire grabs him, we'll let them kind of do the dirty work of grabbing him, because now that'll give us a focal point, and then we take him out before the Empire can get information from him.
I forget it now, but what was Luthen's code name?
Axis.
That's
what the Empire knows him as.
Yeah, could you they're looking for Axis, and they know that if they get access to Axis, it's over. Like they'll be in control. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine how would have felt if they found out that Axis was right in the streets, walking past their soldiers? Like they're going after Andor, and Andor's short fry. He's short fries. He's not important here compared to Axis. He's only important because of Axis. They don't care that he's probably the only prisoner one of two only prisoners who actually escaped. He doesn't care about that. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So yeah, the marching band starts, and again, it's kind of a nice callback to the intro music, because it's a big band that's taken its place. It's been organized, and moving forward towards the Empire. Like it's in a way, marching bands have kind of always been connected to war, I suppose, especially in American history. They have the drum beat sort of rhythm of an army procession back in the Civil War sort of era stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that was around other parts of the world. Right. I'm not too sure, but we see it. Again, it's a mix of all sorts of people. And I thought that was a really interesting culture thing on this planet. We were talking about this a little bit before the podcast, but we have faiths that are ethno-specific. Now, that's not to say so for example, Judaism is an ethnic faith. So whereas most people are born into it and live into it, there's not many people who come from outside of the faith and join it, but in this one we have a wider range. Ferrix is multicultural as hell. You're right. There's people from all over the place, all sorts of ethnicities, aliens. I always wonder, is ethnicity even a thing people give a shit about in a multi-alien civilization? Surely at that stage you can't anymore. Even as big as you can. We see the racism switches over to more of the is it xenophobic? Xenophobia,
it becomes it's towards the aliens instead, right?
Yeah,
that's where it's we've seen that throughout.
Oh yeah, we saw degree of
because they always go his kind can't be here. We don't trust them. You don't trust. They're conniving. They're scummy. We don't trust them because they're from wherever. So it's always there. It always exists. It doesn't matter. It's just about whether what level to go.
But we see really multi cultural, ethnic, not multicultural. I say no, multi-ethnic, multi-alien community, but they've all seemed to have adopted the same tradition. So it's like a group of people from all over the place have come together to follow one path. And some people say, oh, it's kind of like how America is, people come over there. And I think to a degree, maybe, but I suppose people call America the melting pot, but I think the pursuit is more like a stew where, you still have your individual cultures and because you don't want to destroy uniqueness either. You want some, variety. That's arguably America's greatest strength, is that it has different perspectives amongst its, civility, population. That's right. But just really like, especially in these Disney shows, they really focus on like culture of the people around. I find really fascinating. I hope we get something maybe a bit more urban soon, because we've been kind of relying on this is very far from civilization. This is what the civilization is like.
Right.
Like, give me some Coruscant culture. I'd be interested in that. We see that in Thrawn a bit. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, and we've got a lot of chances for that. So yeah, hopefully we'll see more of it. But yeah, like you said, this was cool seeing, as they brought up in the previous episode what the whole thing they do here in Ferrix, and why there was a timeline about the funeral, that they take because Marva was seen as a prominent person in the community as a daughter of Ferrix. They said, she was to be mixed. Her ashes would be mixed into a brick.
Yeah,
and
I think everyone on that planet does, though. I don't think it's only for special people. I think everyone.
Well, but they explicitly made that comment, or at least I should backtrack.
It might be the procession it was
the Imperial in the previous episode.
Yeah.
It was the Imperials were saying this is because Marva was a prominent person, they're doing this.
But I think that was less to do with the cremation and more to do with the actual having a huge marching band out. I don't think everyone gets a marching band.
yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Especially it looked like, because that looked like going back to when Andor arrives, right, where he has that flashback, is he sees that brick, and that looks like that was what I implied, is that's his father's brick.
Yeah.
So you're probably right. Is that this is it's everybody gets a brick.
Yeah, because the thing is, right, because if it was only important people, like the bricks are what builds this town, right? The bricks are eventually used. So if they only use important people, how long have they been on this planet? But if you think about it, it also opens things up in such a big way, because remember they took that hotel and the Empire, they basically took over that tower block.
Yeah, that's their base, yeah. But
that building, so many bricks, so many of their ancestors that they claimed and said, this is ours now, and we're going to use it. What an image. And I remember, even from I know we're reviewing an older episode now, but they were talking about, we'll just use this headquarters here. It was just this, just thrown at it. They didn't care. And obviously it's so important to the people who live here, just really cool cultural thing. I suppose, they walk right up to the Empire. The Empire is shouting at them to stop walking towards them as well at this stage. It's freeze. And then the bomb maker throws the bomb right into.
Well, no, we don't even get that. They already kicked. It's everybody's converged, right?
Yeah.
But we see a steady. And I like the interesting thing, seeing the Empire themselves as they are they're getting people ready, right? He tells me show of force, very SWAT like in its layout, and show and then so now everybody converges, and it's like oh you're getting tense, because you're like, this is obviously grown. Call back to what you just about the orchestra buildup. We see that steadily as the orchestra, pieces of the orchestra start really more kicking in, or as it grows, the whole procession grows, right? We get another street. We see from one street another group of people, and then they come to this next intersection, another group of people. Now it's growing from that 30 to 40 people. Yeah, this is, and you're really kicking
I'm
in.
Jumping in
yeah, I know you want stuff to blow up. We were excited. We knew it was going to happen. We got to get.
I was about to skip Marva's fucking hologram scene and everything.
But yeah, the whole thing. I think that really starts showing. It was already hinting at with the fact we see it's the bomb being made, right?
Yeah.
So we see that there are people on Ferrix here already, more so than just Marva, who was seeing the spark of this rebellion.
The really interesting thing is, like you were saying, they're coming from different streets. It's kind of a symbol of what the Empire does. It focuses on one thing to attack and work on, but doesn't really look around. It doesn't take in the whole picture, it doesn't consider that there's more people coming. It just assumes that people will sit in this place and do as they're told. And I guess that's the whole point of the rebellion. It's the whole, do not do what the Empire expects you to do. is stand by and be quiet. And that's what Marva talks about, because we have B2 Emo show up, the lovely little robot, and he has a big ass hologram projector out the top of his head. Which is cool, I guess. And she's dressed up in her Daughter of the Ferrix, and she talks about what this funeral progression means to her. Because to her, it's always been about, these bricks that they lift up their people. It's something that builds them up. That everyone, it's kind of like the whole shoulders of giants sort of idea. We live on the accomplishment of our ancestors in a big way. And that it is a form of ancestor worship, and it's a form of like being grateful for where you're coming from. But also she made a point that it's not to linger in the past. It's about moving forward, ahead, being supported on that. So then she says, go on.
Yeah, I love her message. Yeah, she says, like you said, that it lifts her. She goes, I yearn to lift you.
Yeah, that's her position now. Yeah.
I want you to go on. I want Ferrix to continue. Yeah. Right? She's very, very focused on. I like the layers she did add in each part of the speech. She keeps building, and building ultimately to Ferrix, saying, it's the individuals, it's the community, it's Ferrix. She keeps mentioning. She goes,
it's those buildings.
We had each other, and that's a great. And I don't think I fully until we're talking about realizing how much they are using the idea of the brick. This is how they build upon
like
each
the buildings are literally built around their community. They're built off their community. They are a collective of what has come before. But she then mentions this but we've been asleep.
But we were sleeping.
We've said, look, we'll keep their ships flying, we'll keep things working. That's what we're good at. But we turn a blind eye to what was happening in the central planets, what was happening elsewhere. And now the Empire's here, and we're sleeping. We're ignoring it. And she gets very passionate.
We let it grow. We let this rust grow, as she called it. And now they're here. And I love it's not visiting. It wants to stay.
Yeah. And she, did she curse at this stage at the Empire?
No, we didn't see.
Very close to it. Yeah, the bastards.
She just called him. I wish I was there to fight these bastards with this. As it grows, right? You steadily hear, this kind of speech is coming, right? Because she's talking about first just, I want to lift you. You're not alone. Blah blah blah, and then she starts slipping into the whole because of we took their money, ignored them, etc. And I love that we see. As we know, let's touch upon real quick that so everybody has converged, right? We got all of our main characters, all of our side characters, everybody's there, and everybody's watching this. We see Luthen is there in the crowd. He's listening to this. And I love that we see you can see that he's he's taking this in because he is finally hearing the result of he knows this is from the result of Aldhani. Now we're hearing people are being vocal. This is what he wants. He's kind of giving this a little bit of a smirk almost. He's listening to this, and
I love how everyone's on the same emotion level as well, because she starts quite, like you said, quite low about the building up and lifting up, but she is telling them the only thing that really hasn't happened amongst them is that they haven't told each other how they feel about the Empire being here. And now it's out in the open. She is saying it. She's not just saying it in front of all of them. She's saying it in front of the Empire. She's saying, you cannot ignore this anymore. Are you going to just bow down to the Empire now? Or are you going to be daughters and sons of Ferrix? Are you going to go out there and fight? And, we have.
I love it. It felt so. You can see they cut to everybody, right? You see the individual, and it's exactly that build up. At first, it's this is Saul. Oh, there's Marva. She's talked to us, but then you can see they're getting, they're getting their courage into this, and now they really get, it's building up. It's building up.
And I love that the general of the Empire, he says, "Shut it down! Shut it down!" It just shows you how weak the Empire is, though. You're scared of a dead lady.
Yeah,
you literally
exactly. Her message. Oh, this is, and it's funny is that she. I like that she did touch on actually exactly that, where she said, it's easy for the dead to tell you to fight. And I like that, she touched on that. She hit on every single note.
Yeah.
That exactly what needed to be said and exactly what needs to be heard.
I love that he threw his cloak over the hologram, and
I don't know how to turn it off. Well,
the beautiful thing is there's quite a lot of symbolism there, because even in the darkness, part of her face still shown out, and there's still like the Empire, like it's literally a moment of the Empire wants to censor, but the truth is coming out regardless. And I think it's such a moment. And can we then throw a bomb at the...
I love the fact that, because that's what triggers it. It's he throws the cloak right and throws B2 Evo aside. And I feel like that's like hold on, you touched the droid. Now you touched the droid. And that's what kicks it off is Brasso. I love that his scream. And then he does this practical Spartan kick of that guy. And boom, right?
Yeah.
And then goes, and it's like, he does a scream like this actual like this rebel yell of scream get off and taking the brick of Marva takes Marva. This is Marva in this brick and just wails on stormtroopers.
Here's the thing, though, right?
And that brick stays untouched.
Here's the thing, though, but that's the thing, though. Like Marva will be completely on board with that. She'd be like, use me as a weapon. Fuck yeah. The dead can fight as well. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was very appropriate. It's like, you totally know that it's like on one hand you're going, he's using her, she's dead. She's using her ass. And it's like, nah, she's totally going, fuck yeah, I hope that's what happens. What's her idea of, I thought for a moment, like, if it weren't for the bomb being made by the kid, I was expecting that they would actually probably build a bomb out of her, that the brick was going to be a bomb. But it's like, no, I don't use that as a weapon. And he like wails on everybody, just wails on them. And it just cracks me up that, that's what goes on. And we see that kicks off, right? So that's the kickoff that then the crowd starts pushing forward. Now they're just pushing against,
like you said, very Spartan. There is proper like fighting, not just guns and shooting, but literally running at people, attacking them with anything else nearby.
Yeah, truly, like more like a guerrilla warfare kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I love hearing, and then you hear the Anvil guy starts kicking off, like he knows. Yep, all right, now we're going. All right, I'm gonna beat the Anvil.
And the general's just like, go get him down, and that's not happening.
Send people off. He's freaking out, trying to figure out, okay, how do we control this? He's saying, hold the line, and so now that's where we get, like we see that, okay, it's building. Yep, they're fighting, and now we see the kid. This is where the real kickoff or fight. Like, okay, boom, we're going. We're fighting. This could still get reined in because it's still just street fighting essentially.
Yeah,
and now the kid throws a bomb and sets it off.
And I really wanted so like in Star Wars, we usually get we see blasters all the time, right? It's just shooting, blang, blang, and people kind of toppling over. We see one of the characters jumping on a stormtrooper's back and trying to wrestle him down to stop him from killing someone. And one of the stormtroopers shoots him off, and he goes flying. He's like 5 foot of like kinetic energy. And I like seeing that because it showed you like the stormtroopers are a threat. These are the people you bring in when the normal soldiers on the front line, the officers, the police force, basically, aren't good enough,
Right. That's what was cool. I liked that they showed as this riot, like they got riot gear feel like this, but and then some going on. Like this wasn't just standard police, in force, but they already had this level of we're bringing in riots, we're bringing in shields. This starts feeling more proper. And we see that. So then and that's now this is where it does suddenly escalate and turns scary, if you will, because with bomb goes off, which not happens to kick off a container of grenades and really blows the place up. Now the Empire go fire at will. Now they're saying open fire, actually kill people. Don't just try to contain everybody and whatever. Nah, slaughter them. And we see, you got friggin' like a machine gun blaster type thing, going on and blasting people. and it really just escalates. It's like this goes, and we see that now it has turned frightening, right? Like you said, we see the Empire and stormtroopers in a much more frightening way. It definitely feels dangerous. It feels scary.
The explosion as well, which you mentioned, kills Nurchi, we assume. It blows the windows through.
It blows up the hotel because he's been he at this point has already gone to the Empire and told them that where he saw where Cassian had snuck in, but he was a little too close there, and that bomb goes off and blows him aside.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, we haven't touched on that. In this whole time, obviously, while everybody's right there, Cassian he's sneaking along, right?
Yeah.
He's out to go rescue Bix.
You know what I really like about this? Like, obviously, I have a feeling he can hear her. Now, I know we hear her talking in his shots, but that could just be a narrator sort of thing. It might not actually be in universe, but I feel like I want to imagine he can hear every single word because it's quite loud
and just kind of
but that he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop at any moment and just like listen to his mother, and I like that because he's on a mission now. Because we have these like romantic ideas of, oh, you would just pause for a moment and listen out. No, Andor, like, hey, look, no sentimentalities here. We have a job to do. Go, 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 go. Again, there's an urgency to it. It makes everything worth. Like, if characters can just stand still and look up in a dreamy way, like, then we know, they have time for that. They can do that. It's not so dangerous that they,
It takes so much away. I like that. The only reason we see him initially there, I'd say he's scouting out, right? He's scouting everything that we see. That he's got a little, what do you call
the binocular thing is I know what you're on about.
And so it's like he's obviously scouting things out. He's not just he's scouting things out. He during that time, right, he sees Luthen actually. So he knows Luthen's there. Obviously triggers to him like, oh, Luthen's here. But so we see that. I love that fact that so while this is running, he doesn't take any time to listen to his mom's speech. Of course, he really kind of can't because he starts seeing as well that the Empire is trying to swarm around like they are looking for him. So he can't stay where he is. He's just there in this tower right next to it all. He can't stay for too long. So he needs to bug out anyways. But it doesn't take any chance to be like, can I hide over here and just listen? Nope. He's kicking off his whole mission now to go rescue Bix while this chaos is going on.
Yeah. They're very determined. And we're seeing deaths as well, left, right, and center of characters. I guess, look, we haven't really seen them in maybe even like 9 episodes, but every death is final. It's not just like, we can see them moving a bit. They'll be fine later on. Death is death. Like, people are dying here. This is not the Force magically protecting people. This is not plot protecting people. People are dying. We see the maybe dad of Bix saving B2 Emo as well, which is lovely. Yep. If he wasn't going to, I was going to.
I like there's a nice little touch about so for later, right? Because it's like, B2 Emo, he's there just laying on the ground. And what's everybody gonna do with him? Especially because Brasso's busy kicking ass. Literally, we watch, because the Empire sees that the kid threw that bomb, so they're quickly, once they gather their wits, the guy's telling them, hey, get that kid. He's the one who threw the bomb. So now Brasso has to go in. Literally, he's headbutting stormtroopers.
Yeah,
talk about damn.
Well, I mean, hey, look, hold on now. We saw Boba Fett beating the shit out of stormtroopers with a stick. So,
this is true. But I'm more so about Brasso's head. Like, damn, that's just take a helmet. Maybe that's your head against the other helmet.
Maybe they're just really like good for they're made for any blaster bounce.
It has some give.
Yeah, it might be shit. It's for physical encounters. Like, it might just need it's really brittle, maybe. You know, who knows?
I'm just thinking more of Brasso's poor head. Like, ouch, man. That deserves
Brasso doesn't give a shit.
That, I mean, man, yeah. I think he's one of my favorite characters out of the show, especially here. Because we just see him, like I said, he's kicking ass. He grabs the kid and helps, kind of cover him up, helps get him out of there. So he gets out.
Yeah,
I love that. He runs off. So that's
Cyril shows up and saves his girlfriend.
I love
Deirdre.
I laugh so hard with as everybody's coming together. Right, we see Cyril's there with his sergeant buddy, and he's looking through the crowd, and when he sees Deirdre walk by, he goes, oh, he goes, that's her, and I started laughing. It's like I'm hearing the what's that that one song? It was jizzed in my pants. I'm like, and I swear he literally he acted so excited, like he's like, oh, she walked by.
He's like, such a fucking weirdo. I love him to bits. And he saves her, and she's as weird as he is. Let's be real. Not in a perfect way, but certainly she's not right in that. They're a good pair, let's just say that, right? Mm-hmm. And she's just like, I suppose I should thank you. And he goes, you never have to. And it's just like, oh God, oh no. I guess I'm looking forward to them buddying up for next season. That's going to be a joy. But so Bix's father, gets B2EMO out. Bix gets saved as well by Andor. She's messed up. She is not in a good place. She said she dreamt that he came back to save her, and I almost think she says that almost to jab at it to see is this a dream as well? I dreamt. Is this the same thing? She seems to be a bit annoyed with him at first, but she's also completely out of it. Like you were saying.
It's very obvious PTSD going on here, right? Very obvious mental strain, because as he's he's carefully trying to approach her, she's I think exactly like you said, where she's testing this, because she has gone through so much already. She's like, I've dreamt this happened, so this may not be real, and she's trying to nudge her along, and then finally he's like, as he's hearing the commotion going on, knows that okay, we're gonna have to start getting out of here because bombs gone off, things are happening. So he's trying to wake her up, basically, hey, we need to go. And her comment of no, they'll get angry, very childlike, in a as a small child would, and that stung, because it was just man, that's how messed up they got to her, with their torture, right? And it's that if anything. Those are the types of things that, to me, these are the very dark, very, very dark things you see. Because it's not to say that just killing somebody isn't dark. It is, but torture, leaving them alive and letting that go on is
that crawling evil that just kind of starts melting itself right through everything. But yes, so Andor brings her to the starport, or whatever they call them in Star Wars, where gets it to a ship, and Bix's maybe father. Please tell anyone who knows. Let me know who he is. Yeah. Is he dad? I mean, I'm still under the illusion that Bix might be related to Andor, but who knows? But yeah, she gets him on there. There's a daughter of Ferrix on the ship as well. B2EMO's on there, and Andor's basically saying go. You keep flying straight until you get there. Keep moving, and I'll catch up to you. I'll find you. And there was a line you liked in this, I believe. Yeah. So because he is. He's we see that he's telling him, hey, you're gonna pilot out of there, and they're like, well, and B2EMO going, you're and in his stuttering poor baby android voice, he's like, you're not coming. I never got to see you, and I was like, it's just so, and he's like, no, take care of Bix until I get there. I'm counting on you, and there's this very obvious he's leaving them, and that
he's like, well, and between those ones going, oh, you always say that, like, I don't know,
he's like a dog.
Back. And, yeah, but then we see the cut to Bix, as this is going on, and it's like, it's obvious. Okay, so she's starting to come to a little bit, and as she's saying, he'll find us.
Yeah.
Cassian will find us, and I loved that. That was a good touch of, like, because we've seen early on when he first showed up, right? They're just like, you're here for what you need, and then you just leave, right? You don't pay back your debts.
Yeah.
So you just scurry off and run. They make that very clear that that's how they think of him. And they even force it of saying, no, I'm not going to do anything until you pay off your current debt, or you give me something, because you just run away. You just run away. You don't come back until you need it. And so by her being, in the state and just saying, he'll find us, Cassian will find us. It's like, that's just one more, besides what we heard from Marva and what she told, the message to him of, like, loving him no matter what, that he is doing the right thing, or that he's on the right path. And now we get another person who very obviously knows him very intimately and knows him well, and giving her own, like, that assurance of saying, this is really saying, I trust you, and that you're, I know you're going to do what you can. I trust everything you're doing. Don't worry about it. And, hey, and that's, I think that just it brought everything, brings closure from everybody. I think he needs closure from, right? There's nobody else that he will be gnawing at him about, how do they really think? Did I do enough for them? How do they think? Do they really, because he is a good person. So I think that helped. And I love that little touch.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But they escape. We'll go back to Mon Mothma, because it's a very short scene, but it's very implied. We see the guy she had a business deal with before, who wanted to marry his son. Well, wanted just a meeting of his son with Mothma's daughter. And she's there with her husband. The guy himself is there with his wife and the kids. I found it was very absolute. Like, this is happening now. There is no squirming out of this. They've decided on this.
It was, and you notice that the whole scene was, oh my God, it's a tragedy almost in a way, because you see Mon Mothma, you see her daughter, you see her husband as they're approaching. You see the daughter looks actually fairly happy about this.
She wants this, I'd say.
As we've seen that they've already said she's into the old customs. She's into
rebelling
everything
against her mother because her mother is a rebel of her culture.
Right. But what's interesting is this, and this was a great, whether this was intentional or not, but you kind of can't help but feel like a lot of these things are intentional. That you notice that as they're approaching, Mon Mothma is distant, right? She's there, but her eyes, she's looking away from this. She's obviously upset. This is very troubling to her. She doesn't want to do this. She played that so beautifully, of very obviously not wanting to do this, but she's progressing. But she's not paying attention to the moment. But what I loved was this thing. As her daughter's there, obviously looking happy, like, oh, you're excited about this. And who does she look over to? She looks over to her mother, almost as a, like, look, Mom, this is like very happily. It doesn't look like, but she's looking over.
This is the first time she said pleasantly at her mother, like,
right. And it's almost like almost like she is trying to form a bond. Like, this is a just like you. It almost feels like, I kind of feel like this is why maybe that is why she's into the tradition, right? This is a way she's rebelling against her mom, but at the same time, she yearns for a relationship, right? That is what she wants. So this kind of is a being that way, but the fact that she looks over to her and her mom is so wrapped up in, she's distant and she doesn't look at her at all. She's explicitly, she's obviously looking straight forward, and the daughter looks up, but doesn't break. She just looks back. But that was a very, like, heartbreaking touch, because of her daughter looking over. It's like, that's an approval thing. That's a, like, look, Mom, she didn't look over. Like, if she hated her mom, it would have just been it would have been a much different look over or something. That was the look over of a, as you would have, like, someone else you want the approval from.
I think of this. Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to my comment on the relationship before. Like, I don't think her daughter inherently hates her mother, but it's that her mother's actions, of what she has done, of how they looked at socially, of what other parents are saying, what other kids are saying. Like, there's a distance because Mon Mothma is who she is, and that caused her daughter to have maybe a tough life amongst her peers. And now finally her mother is kind of stepping into place. The daughter now can be close to her mother again in her head. And I really think maybe the daughter became such a traditionalist because she wanted to fit more into her people as well, you know? Like they said, there seem to be people more off planet that are into their traditions than actually at home. But yeah, it does definitely feels like Mothma is like selling off her kid. I have that in the notes, and it is that. It's a very cruel, dark thing to do. I understand why she does it, but it is an evil.
Yeah, I mean, well, as we're the whole everything about the show and what kicked it off, right? Is there is no fully good, right?
No.
Because you're winding up having
to
do
use
things
the tools of the enemy.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. So that's the unfortunate thing. It's gray, right?
Yeah,
good people doing bad things. So we see that all happening.
I mean, even
bad people doing good things.
You
right?
can't fight a war of hugs. You know,
exactly. It can't be. There's not Care Bear stare here happening.
Yeah. Like, it's shit. It's bad. And again, I was about to say, I'm not a fan of war. Like, there are people who are. Well, I mean, I know some people are interested hobby-wise, and some weird, not weirdos, it makes it sound very nice and childish, psychopaths like Putin love war. But let's not go down that road. No, that should not be a controversial topic. If anyone's going to come and say, don't say Putin likes war, that's unfair, fuck off. He's a monster. But anyway, but
pound, we're here knocking at your door.
But yeah, I was saying I'm not a big fan of war, but war is usually what happens when everything else has failed. It is the last resort, sadly. Well, thank God it's the last resort. It'd be weird the first resort. But there has in a real world, and this is what this show is trying to do, is trying to make this a real world. Great evils have to be done by the good side. There is no magic wizard that's going to teach Mon Mothma how to use a lightsaber and protect her daughter from the Empire. There is no magical redemption for Luthen, that he is able to return to the light side after everything is done. No, Luthen is tarnished. He is fucked for the rest of his life. He's not going to have his son taking off his mask and says, "Oh, you already saved me." No, right. Luthen is corrupted, and that's it. So I appreciate the hell of it. Talking about Luthen, we do get to see him once more, because Andor tracks him down, and he says simply, "Kill me or bring me in. Bring me into the rebellion." And just that was such a good way to end this episode. I thought it was just spot on.
I loved it. Yeah, that was great because excuse me, the fact that Luthen with Luthen arrives, right, and he's powering on a ship. He's like, "Oh, we gotta get out of here," stealth mode. And wait, ship ain't responding. Nothing's happening.
Yeah, and
see, turns and up. There's there he is. There's Andor, and it's like and Andor even calls him out, and says, "You came here to kill me, didn't you?" This just you feel you get that spaghetti western feel. It's a standoff. It's the oh shit, is there gonna be a shootout? But then with Cassian's just like it's Luthen's comment of well, you don't make it easy, and Cassian's just saying I will. And just he left the blaster they brought.
Yeah,
left her right by Luthen. And
also a blaster that's from one of the who's the the old Star Wars games.
Whoa,
The really old Star Wars games, like what's his face? For anyone,
It's not Kyle Katarn's.
I think it's Kyle Katarn. Like Kyle Katarn has the same
I think it is.
gun.
Yeah.
That Luthen has. It's a bit more slimlined and like done for the modern way, but that was a nice touch.
But I love that. Yeah, he's just like,
make it easy.
And Luthen's like, trying to test this out, and then Cassidy's saying, no games. It's kill me or take me in, and that's basically swearing a blood oath, right? He's like, I'm in. You kill me, and that ends that, or I'm in. I'm here. I will. He that is saying that I will give my life for this. Yeah. Again, like I said, it's a practical, and I love that we zoom in on Luthen, and Luthen, cracking that smile, that realization that, all right, he's in. And this is, especially I think after everything he just saw, right? Luthen just witnessed. We do see, before he even gets to his ship, right? He takes a moment looking over the city as chaos is erupting, right? We see smoke filled. So he was right there by the explosion when it all occurred. So, he sees what's going on and knows, he's kicked off. And now this brings this over that, Cassian would have been, Andor would have been well within his right to be like, I'm going to fucking kill you. What the hell? And instead, like, he knows what's going on. Like, recognize Cassian knows the big picture as well. And he's like, and that smile that, like, this is all coming together.
It kind of reminds me of when Luthen went, what's his name? Guy with asthma.
Correct.
Yeah. It's kind of the similar standoff. It's almost like baby's first lethal standoff for Andor. Here, he said, "I'm going to put my life on the line here." Like Luthen put his life on the line, and like, listen to me. Do something about it. I'm willing to pay the price, which is my life, to at least get an opportunity here.
Right, exactly. So I think he saw a bit of himself in it, right?
Yeah,
it was a really cool moment of that proper acceptance of it. So I like that. That was like, oh, so that's where we end, right? We see that this is it. And Cassian now, Andor is fully in.
Yes,
this is what brought him in.
He's now part of the rebellion, which whatever way the rebellion is at this stage. Do we know how many years this is before Rogue One? 5 years.
5 years.
Okay.
Well, at the very least, 5 years ish, right? Because when at least from the start of the first episode, it's 5 years.
Okay.
And however long we've had, which I don't think we've had months, right? I don't think we've had like years go on here. So we're talking.
I think the longest time was probably in prison. From what I can guess. 3 months or something. And 30 days was the first episode. I think it went on for a bit longer, but maybe it could be 30 days.
Yeah. So I think we're still within 4 to 5 years still. So we're still pretty we're still quite a while. But
do you think season 2 is going to come up a lot closer to Rogue One? Are we going to skip a few years ahead?
Probably a year or two. I think it should probably fit somewhere in between. Would probably be best. Right. Let's have we need enough time. Well, they'll probably want enough time has passed so that he's ingrained in some, there's something else has established and gone on. But we're not right up against Rogue One because we're going to need something else, something in between. So probably literally smack dab where a few years later. So you don't
think it's going to be a final episode of, hey, we need you to find someone, and they mention her name from Rogue One and off he goes?
It could.
Yeah,
right? It might, like I said, just because we start at it might over time lead us into it.
Yeah,
difficult to say. There's many approaches you could take to this because we know from what Diego has said that this is the last outing for his character.
Yeah.
He's not going to do it anymore. At least that's what he said.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's not pulling a. Nope, I'm lying. I'm gonna be back again. I think he at least genuinely means it. So it means the writing will be of such that it will probably, tail off into.
There has been talks, though. There have been talks about maybe a continuing series with maybe characters like Bix that post Rogue One and still within the. Because I'm not sure about Bix, because I'm going to be honest, we don't know Bix all that well. Like, you know, again, all these characters feel like they have loads of information we have about them. We don't actually. But it's just so well written that we think we do,
That's what's funny, right? I think, honestly, a lot of our characters of Star Wars, right? We really don't or didn't at the time know a lot. That grew out of books and other media that grew the stories out of them. But that's what I think. It's what's always funny. We get these complaints through Star Wars. Star Wars particularly seems to get this but we don't know more about this character. Why didn't they tell us more? Blah blah. And it's like, it's nothing like the originals, and they're like complaining about it. And then you look back, you're like, you knew nothing about the Emperor. We just know he's this evil guy. You only know more about it because of the media, the additional media that occurred, and other stuff.
And Star Wars back then took a lot of shortcuts with tropes and stereotypes. So the dude in the big dark cloak who says, "Do it." Yeah, he's probably not a good guy.
Right. Right. So there's a lot of stuff that we don't know a lot. But does it mean they're a bad character? No. And doesn't mean that you
that's
can do more.
That's what I'm saying about Bix. I'm not saying Bix is a bad character at all.
We don't know much. Yeah,
we just
that leaves it open.
I will say I think characters are written better in this than the Star Wars movies. The subtlety to it that gives dimensions to these characters, that is just smart writing, implications, rather than, hey, do you think this 8 foot tall guy covered in black is evil? And I
think that's also one of those things. If you are given a little bit more freedom, or I think your mind kind of rests a bit in that when dealing with a show, right? We're dealing with these were 12 episodes, roughly under an hour each, and we'll say average of 50 minutes or so, but we'll say probably about an hour each. So you're talking, that's 12 hours essentially, more or less. Versus a movie is 2 hours.
Yeah,
you got cram all stuff, and that's each movie, right? Granted, you could grow more, but even still, if you do that as a trilogy, that's 6 hours. That's half the time that you've got to cram in. So you have to figure out, and then you do have to use tropes, or you have to use things that make it more explicit versus and not as.
We've talked about fan edits of TV shows of Disney, and to bring it down to a movie, mostly the Kenobi series. We've mentioned and. Look, I've watched some of the cuts. It's not bad. I think Kenobi does have a big problem of pacing throughout its episodes. Just to say, I enjoyed Kenobi, but it does have issues.
We are allowed to enjoy things and criticize them at the same time.
Oh yeah,
that is allowed. I know
it's almost like some sort of critical review or something.
Good Lord, yes. But you can still enjoy it. Just say, this is the stuff I didn't like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I imagine if you took the 12 hours of Andor, I don't think you could do one movie cut out of that. You'd have to do 3. You have to do the 3 arcs, and you can maybe cut them each down to a movie length. But I think you'd start seeing some, I don't know this character at all. Who are they? I don't know what's going on. So there'd be elements of that. But who knows? I'll probably give 1 or 2 a go if they come out.
It'll be
fans.
Interesting to see. Yeah. I do agree, because especially because a lot of the scenes were slow. The pacing of the whole show has been a much slower pace.
Yeah,
even in action sequences, we're at a slower pace. This episode particularly, in this finale, right? I felt like it acted. We actually came back around. It felt like to where in the series we started off very slow and we built up. We had some action, kind of slowed down again, but built up. We kind of kept going, but it's been a slow burn. We kept describing it. It's been scrapped. It's a slow burn.
It's respect to the viewers having some attention.
You're right. This episode was a slow burn as well, right? It took us a while to get to finally to even the marching section, right? And it slowly built. Everything was slow about it, but then it hit. That's been the nature of the show.
But here's the interesting thing:
difficult to proper edit down, because like Kenobi, I think, was quote unquote easy to do that because things moved. It was just the pacing was weird or certain moments, but you had them happen. Ish. You can rearrange it. This would be, I think, difficult because the scenes acted out fully as well. The pacing of their discussions, right? The monologues even went on. So, and they're important pieces. They were important pieces, though.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, right? We talk about acceleration a lot. So I have a notepad open here of notes for this episode, and like, it's a slow burn. Yes, of course. But literally, there's like 3 or 4 points after the explosion. Whereas before, there's like 20 lines of information. So even the slow burn stuff, it still gives you information. It's not just like, we're going to take this and stretch it out. It's not that. There is no stretching out of plots here. Well, I would say episode 2 and 3, a little bit of a stretch. But look, in general, outside this, not much like plot stretching like this. They do still give you consistently the same amount of information throughout the episode at all times. It's just that it speeds up a bit at the end. It's a bit more high octane, but even the high octane has information in it. It's not just empty plot. There's no empty plot in Andor.
There's not empty calories out of this, right? And I think something, real quick, we didn't. So I guess let's talk about since this is the finale. This is it for this season. Going back and looking over things, what were things that we were touched upon, what came back again, and what were important from early on. One thing we didn't touch upon in this episode, and I think was beautiful touch or beautiful piece, because I was hoping for, we figured it would happen, is we see that Andor is back on the planet, and he's going through everything, trying to as he finds out about Bix, etc. But we see that then he is reading he is reading the manifesto. Right, and that was written by what's his name? The kid, Nimitz.
Yes, sorry, yes, I remember now. We should mention. We didn't even mention that his manifesto gets read out to us in this episode.
So it basically, it gets narrated through, and I thought that was really cool. We kind of figured it would have to be shown, right, that he's reading it, whatever. But it actually gets read out to us. Instead, not you see that he's reading it, it gets read out. And I really liked that scene. I really liked hearing him speak it, right? And we hear from him, from his own words, him talking.
Loris, was it?
No, it's See, this is what happens when you have all your notes ready, and then you realize you don't clearly have it, but it's back with
anyway, we'll talk about other things.
Nimitz, there it is. Nimitz manifesto. But anyways, I did like that. I knew you figured from when in the episode after with the heist where Vel gives it to him, says, Nimitz wanted you to have this. It says it's important for you to have this. We knew we were going to see it, but I like they brought it out here in the final one.
And he says that peace is a natural thing that happens across the entire galaxy. Like it's just a natural order of things, and things like war and corruption and governance in the way it happens in this era Star Wars. These are unnatural things. They have to be constantly worked on. But rebellion comes naturally. It's just a state of matter, I guess, or a state of people, across the board. Look, this, I think I've mentioned this in earlier episodes. I think this is George Lucas, I imagine, probably enjoyed this series, or he would have enjoyed it at some stage in his life, because this has the actual Star Wars DNA running through it. Not it's lightsabers and space battles and all this kind of stuff. It's about pointing out things like how Vietnam that America was like the empire in Vietnam. You know, that there were evils that were done, and that was meant to point out the corruption that can happen with big government. Mm-hmm. And I think this show, I mean, yeah, you could talk about Clone Wars and we can talk about Rebels, and all these shows are fantastic and definitely say to watch them. And they do talk about corruption, obviously, and overreaching power, but this says it from a very real life perspective. This talks about people living day to day, drudging themselves through the dirt. And then there's this empires pushing down on them even more. So it is a story. It's almost like French Revolution kind of vibe to it, you know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I really dug it for that. For other things that showed up, I mean, I for some reason I keep thinking about B2 Emo, like this. I know we kind of joked about his character and saying he's like a dog, but there's also like hints of dealing with Alzheimer's. I almost feel like B2 Emo kind of fits. B2 is like an extension of Andor's mother. You know what I mean? Like in that. Mm-hmm. We didn't we knew she was ill and she was suffering and she was going to die, but it wasn't one of those things where like maybe they wanted to say, hey, maybe something severe mental wise that could affect her poorly, but they said maybe it's a bit too harsh, so they kind of pushed it onto this robot of hers. Like he is like an aspect of her, if that makes sense, you know.
No, that's a very good point. I do think that's a good way to kind of help, break it apart and split it up so that, you don't have her, because it would be a little more, there's something about that. Or it would almost take away from because
she would have, as terrible as our society is about ableism and that kind of stuff, if she had Alzheimer's and then she had her speech there's a part, I think, with some viewers where we say, oh, she's just rambling like a madwoman now. Which is a terrible thing to say. I don't approve by it, but I'm just saying, like, we have social images of people with, disabilities and mental illnesses that we like to, kind of sweep them to the side. Hell, we have issues with older women making a point and being leaders. We don't like that either. You know, maybe we should have checked her emails too. Anyway. But yeah, no, I think
exactly. But I think it worked out well by doing that, because it did just it helps spread out. Don't put too much
B2 emo out of it.
Right, exactly. Right, because if you put too much stuff on one character, and split up, you actually had enough material, and exactly they worked out well. Whether that, maybe we're completely off on they from the get go maybe had that, but I loved that about B2 emo. Like I said, it was an extension of her essentially. He's still going on, you know. Yeah. I think the one thing, I mean, they've wrapped everything up pretty nicely over the course of things. You know, everything seems to be put together. We saw, we don't know now with Vel and Cinta. They gave a real quick recap there of just showing that they're packing up, right? So they're trying to get out of here from this. So we know they're going to be off to somewhere, but they're at least we see that they've made it out to some degree or another, right? Out of that fluffle, they weren't caught up. They weren't blasted by the Empire. They're back at the safe house trying to get ready to go.
Yeah.
Which real quick, let's touch upon one thing, which was I didn't even think about really how drastic this is. The fact of you say Cinta being the healer, right? She is the medical personnel of their group, right? She's and what did we see in this episode? We actually saw her kill an Imperial.
Yeah.
That she's following along with him, and she actually just outright just stabs him.
Yeah, like it's a proper intimate murder as well. Like it's I wouldn't call it murder. Well, it is murder. Let's not go into the ethics of murder or not. Yeah. It's killed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right.
But she outright just takes him, and very methodically, just she realized
almost like a surgeon. Like she knows exactly where to stab, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that. That was cool. You know, Vel's like, "You're bleeding." Say that's not my blood.
She's
like,
dealing with, I think, a sort of trauma because we see it happen. But like her, especially like when Val sees her and like she doesn't know how to socialize anymore. She doesn't know how to say hello. Like this is someone she loves, and she didn't run over and like hug her or say hello or anything like that. She's just like it's almost like she's taken all her emotions, which is probably part of her doctorness, moved it away, and is just doing this because she can't connect to her empathy, because if she did for a moment, it would destroy her. And that's why we have things like with Andor saying, "Oh, you have hands like a surgeon or something." He has some line about her being a wonderful doctor in a way, and she doesn't really react great to it. She's just like, she smiles a little bit, but then she moves on. So I like she's in survival instinct. She can't connect to her emotions because she'd fall apart. She can't be intimate with the person she loves because she'd break apart. So she's just mission.
That was exactly why, like, you see Vel, Vel just very calmly talk to her and says, come away from the window. Like, it's like let's have a moment. Let's, don't, you are caught up too much in this, and you're gonna lose yourself. Don't, let's have a moment. I think it was subtle, that part. But that was, I think that was a nice
I hope she comes back as an interesting character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I like those. I hope they can. But one thing, so I think, like, so we've wrapped up most of it, except one thing, which was, I guess it was semi wrapped up, but not, and that is which we could go with season 2 and see what will happen. Is this Andor's sister?
It's Bix. It's Bix. I'm still betting on Bix.
You think it's Bix? Because he said he's looking for her, and then we see the flashbacks. Right? We see this whole thing. It's obviously important, and then mid-season, what happened? Where Marva just tells him forget about her. Just tells him forget about her. Doesn't give any explanation about it. Doesn't even throw out saying, "Look, okay, she's dead. I'm just gonna tell you." But just no, forget about her. And then we don't see any further thought on this at all. No reference, no nothing.
All right, but like, entertain me. Pretend Bix was his sister, right? And imagine Marva in that moment went, "Bix is your sister." It would destroy everything. I think Marva was very protective there, and like almost overprotective. Like, don't go there. You won't like where you're going.
Well, I think that was. I mean, that's what I kind of gathered was that her saying "forget about it" is it was a protection thing, right?
Yeah.
Very obviously a protection thing. It's not there. She knows something about it. It wasn't just Andor, you're just, she's gone, just stop thinking about it. It's that she knows something about the sister, and telling him, don't go further. This is not going to,
just to boost my point, Star Wars has a history of siblings maybe having weird feelings for each other. So, I'm just saying, it wouldn't.
Right. At least, it would not be far off. And that would be, that could explain things, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm with you on that. I think that's a very good possibility. But maybe we'll see that. Will we see in season 2? Will that be one of the side stories? Will we continue on about that? Will we see more about that, or is that it? Will they have swept that under the rug? Will that just be a?
I don't think the writers have that way. I think he'll come back.
I really hope so. Just because it's just, as well as. It was kind of interesting where he came from, right? That planet he came from. And what happened to all those kids? What happened to all that stuff? Can we get I wouldn't mind just a touch more backstory of that. And if it could link up to the sister, cool. Like I said, I don't need like a full episode on it. I don't need, tons of time. Just sprinkle in a flashback and something help, or something he comes across and help kind of tidy that. I
just think they focused on his sister too more. I don't know. My money's still on Bix, but look, I'll leave that. One thing I want to say, there's a parallel I want to make to another franchise, Game of Thrones. Now, I understand there's a difference between Game of Thrones. There is no main character. Well, there's no main singular character in Game of Thrones, whereas Andor, you could argue, it's Andor. Though we have argued that a lot of times he's not around and other characters have plots and stuff. But so a lot of people love Game of Thrones because it kills off people. It doesn't protect them from mercy and death happens. But the thing that didn't work well for me for the Game of Thrones is that they over romanticize the deaths. They've made it they always really focus on making death super satisfactory. Yes, this is a moment we're having in the show. And don't get me wrong, look, it's plot and drama, and we want these things. But I love how Andor does it. Things just happen. Death happens. The kid who wrote this manifesto, he was just sitting in the back of the ship when the crate just flew by because they didn't wrap him up properly. There was no sort of someone poured some poison into his drink while he looked away because they had some drama before. No, this is just cruelty of life killing him, And even then we have him being brought to the doctor to save him, and there's a part where he's okay, they're going to save him. No, dead as well. They could have killed him there, but they just said, look, some of these people don't die straight away. And they just kind of kept him going, Yeah,
no, I agree, Alex. I do like that. I'm with you on that. I think that's exactly. That's why I just the sister thing is just because it was just the way it was handled. Yeah, right. It could have been. I mean, I don't think they think. I think they do have more, because of how they just have kind of nope. Let's just don't talk about it. Oh, nope, it's gone.
Yeah.
But it would have been. I
think there's a thread there for sure. I imagine we'll probably get back to it. But I was just mentioning, I do like how death is handled in Andor. What is your wish list for Andor season 2?
Luthen. And more Luthen.
Do you want Luthen now to be Andor goes to Luthen for missions? Or do you want Luthen? Because the thing I loved about Luthen is he had the spider web thing. He didn't have to be nearby. He was just pulling threads here and there, and things were being done at the other side of the bloody galaxy, because of what he was doing,
Yeah, I just want to see more of that, right? I want to see more of Luthen pulling the strings, right? I want to see more.
Do you want to see him as a leader inside the rebellion?
I think I wouldn't mind seeing some of that, right? Let's see. I would like to see his other. What may seem interesting, or what made things interesting, as we start seeing him interface with other people, right?
Do you think he can share power? Do you think he can share tactics with other people? Because that's the thing. He clashes with people who have other plans than him.
Exactly. I feel like he has big control, and otherwise, if other people do have plans, he's manipulating it to his advantage, right? He's letting them in on something enough that he knows they're going to do whatever, or will argue with them out of it, but he's still going to do his own thing. So it feels like he's quite independent. Yeah. In leading. Right. That's why I do want to see more of him, his clashes, and more of him. How is he going to work other manipulations, right? Because that's all he's been doing. He's been doing nothing but manipulations along the way, right? Good or bad, right? But he's utilizing the, as we touched upon, the appropriate face he uses and what he says to the individuals to direct them towards the path he wants them to go to achieve the objective in his mind that he's setting out for.
Here's the thing, right? I think he has been trying to get all the little tiny groups of rebel cells to come together and work together. That's his whole goal. He wants everyone to rise up and work together on this. But I honestly can only see him as a splinter cell sort of side group. He is the black ops of the Rebel Alliance,
Yep. I kind of wonder, which was kind of that's how we saw Rogue One, right? Because that's what Cassian, Cassian was essentially that. what I'm willing to bet we'll probably see is that, Luthen's got all this stuff, and he's got who's the one, Clea, who is helping with it, has obviously the same information as him. Most likely, season 2 prediction, since it's only supposed to be season 2, and unless they announce some other spin-offs and things they're going to do, what I can see them doing is that Luthen at some point, whether it's at the end of it or in between, either way, he gets killed. And that Clea, this is where what we're going to see to help kind of culminate everything is that Clea will take the information she has, all that stuff, and brings it to Mon Mothma. So that Mon Mothma gets even more into, since she has such that leadership in the rebellion role, this will kind of help. Now she has access to the same information, right? About here's where the splinter cell, here's where all his contacts are, here's where people are, and now she can start driving the rebellion. Behind the scenes, which is that's probably where we're going to see that happen, unfortunately. But because he's not going to make it. Probably
no, he's not. But like the fact we get another season with him, I hope. Like imagine anything. Yeah, it's coming back. Luthen isn't though.
Yeah. Oh man, we'd be like
honestly, it's all like I love the show, but it's almost a deal breaker for me if they went like, yeah, Luthen's not coming back. It's like.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. It's like, even if as long as he's there, involved in some way.
Yeah. He can be in like one episode. I'd be all right, but have him there, please.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to seeing maybe Luthen and Andor being together on a mission because we haven't seen that.
Yeah, we touched upon it real briefly at the beginning, right? When they have to escape, and so we saw the two of them working together ish.
Yeah,
but. It would be interesting to more see that proper, them working together.
They have a plan of what to do something. Yeah. Oh, could you imagine Luthen introduces Andor to his ulterior persona, how are you, and have bring him into some sort of high society situation. There's a heist there again, and I want to see it. I think we'll leave it there for now, for the moment. We have some movies that we want to review in future, David and I, and we'll get to that. Folks, if you have any suggestions of what you'd like us to review, let us know on either What's on the Box or on Sure It'll Be Grand, the main one. It's bye from me.
And a bye from me.
Folks, look after yourself. Bye-bye.